So hello to the viewers watching through YouTube. If you're watching this live stream after it's already ended, you can move ahead to the 10-minute mark, which is when we will officially get started. So you can scoot on ahead to the 10-minute mark, and it is there that we will officially begin. If you look up there, you can see the monk life community. That's everyone who's joining through our group meditation, kind of like our Zoom call. And then here, of course, you see me, your host, Bante Warapanyo. So if you're watching this later on, you can scoot ahead to the 10-minute mark, and that is when we will officially get started. Okay, Ka, I'm glad that you're here joining today. Hello to Felix and Christina. As I just said on the YouTube, we'll get started in about 10 minutes, will be the formal start time.
How does the YouTube stream look from the perspective?
It's just a big screen of me, and then it's the Discord's in the upper left-hand corner, or one of the upper corners. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I see Kit and Scott. Hey there, Kit.
Hello, everyone.
And I see... I'm sorry, Kit, I interrupt you. What do you say?
I said I just ate something very spicy, so I'm gonna be sitting here just smacking my
Oh,
for a little bit.
this is the perfect time to be in a meditative position after you eat something very spicy. You know, the reading that we went on to, we're looking at yesterday, said that if we go to hell, it is auspicious. So there you go. And I see Scott, and hey there to Stephen. Welcome, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I haven't shared the pictures, but I just visit a female monastery with Vietnam monks, female monks, and it was just a joy and a pleasure to do some chanting with them and to participate in their space. They have a beautiful altar. I took some pictures I'll share later in the Discord, but I'm just getting back from that. So I'm feeling in a nice way coming from that.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I see that Angie and Frayne are here, and Sengiz and Bence and Asha, Felix, Nicholas, Rory, May, Maya, everyone's here, just about. If you're able, don't be shy to put on your camera. What it can help to do You don't have to do it, but what it can help to do is put you in a place of intimacy and just a little bit of vulnerability. We don't want to be too vulnerable here. We are on the internet. We should take care of ourselves. But if you do feel safe and comfortable to do it, to share, it's both to put you in that kind of intimate headspace of you're really showing up somewhere, you're really present somewhere. And then also it's an act of generosity so that, a lot of people are isolated in the world and community can be very rare. And so to see that we are coming together in this way as a community, not just kind of passively watching or consuming, is really inspiring to many people, I believe. Certainly is inspiring to me. So just another 4 minutes. We're going to get started pretty soon. Hello to Your Positive Mind Meditations, who's on the YouTube, and Vidura, and Nikki, and Daniel, and Stacy. And Daniel is speaking in perhaps Japanese characters, and that's always great to have some diversity in language. Welcome in Famo. Okay, Nicholas, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Mm. So before we do begin in these moments, we can start to turn our attention onto the breath, turn our attention onto the body, and just start to settle into the space. Through our mindful breathing, through our awareness of the body, really stepping into this space as a place of practice, not of consumption. Usually we're consuming things. But this is a place to practice, to show up, to be with it. So turning towards the breath and this awareness of the body. And also to plant the seed of your intention to stay with this practice, to continue your meditative approach, your mindfulness approach as we go through these readings, as we share from our experience, as we practice. Really plant that seed that we have this sincere intention to stay with it, to really be embodied with it, and just to show up moment to moment, whatever that means to us. So then we are about to begin. We usually get started 10 minutes after we've been live, And that is in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Hello, everyone. A very sincere and heartfelt, appreciative welcome for everyone who's here. What we're going to be doing today is what we've been doing the past couple days this week, listening to some Zen stories, some stories of the kind of Buddhist monks in the Zen style, living their lives, some poetry, just these kind of meditative stories that we consider there might be some wisdom in there. Sometimes they're a little bit funny, sometimes they're very insightful, very direct. And so what we will do together is basically that we've already gathered, we've kind of showed up into this space together. We have a commitment, a sincerity to listen deeply from our heart, to listen to these stories, and also to share. So as I read through these stories, and we all listen, and I'll try to listen as well as much as I can, from our body, from our breath, from our heart, after we read through these stories, we'll then open up the space to share. So if you have some idea about this text, or if you are inspired by something in it, or if you have a question about it, it's an opportunity to practice a little bit of generosity with either a question or to share your wisdom on the topic. So maybe there's something that you really noticed in there that was very wise or that connected with you. And so after we read it, there's that opportunity to share about it, to share according to what we have, what we've understood, or to ask about it. Okay? Any questions before we get started? All right, so allow us to begin with this first story, which is entitled Better Than Flowers. So this first story is entitled Better Than Flowers. And we listen to it, we listen to these stories while we're meditating, is kind of what we do. So Better Than Flowers. One spring, the haiku poet Basho decided to take a trip to see the flowers in a certain place famed for its scenery. Along the way, he heard of a poor peasant girl noted for devotion to her parents. Intrigued, Basho went looking for the girl. When he found her, he gave her all the money he had brought for his travel expenses. Then he returned home without having seen the flowers. He said, "This year I have seen something better than flowers." So it's so short, I'll read it again. One spring, the haiku poet, Basho, a very kind of renowned Zen poet, decided to take a trip to see the flowers in a certain place famed for its scenery. Along the way, he heard of a poor peasant girl noted for devotion to her parents. Intrigued, Basho went looking for the girl. When he found her, he gave her all the money he had brought for his travel expenses. Then he returned home without having seen the flowers. He said, "This year I have seen something better than flowers." Anyone have any thoughts about that one? And of course, as we are listening to these Zen stories, as we are following our breath and kind of relaxing and connecting with our body and our heart as we listen to this, if you have no thoughts, then that is ideal. Just continuing this practice of deep listening, listening from the heart, and being present. But if there is something you noticed or you feel inspired to share, you can also do that. Okay, so we'll move on to the next story. This one is called Communication. Once, when Zen master Bankai was about to leave a temple in the capital where he taught from time to time, a certain gentleman came requesting that the master postpone his departure. A certain baron had a question and wanted to see the Zen master in person on the morrow to resolve it. Bankai assented and put off leaving. I suppose assented means agreed. The next day, however, the gentleman came again, this time with the message that the baron had some urgent business to take care of and could not come to see the master. The baron had asked the gentleman to relay his question to Bankai, then report the Zen master's answer back to him. When he had heard the gentleman out, Bankai said, "This matter of Zen is difficult to convey even by direct question and direct answer. It is all the more difficult to convey by messenger." The Zen master said nothing more. Speechless, the gentleman withdrew and departed. What came up for me very quickly in this kind of wisdom that I noticed there about meditation is kind of bringing us to this place of directness, of intimacy with our moment-to-moment life, our heart-mind, our direct experience. But even then, even having that direct connection, that direct experiencing, that's not based on words and phrases or ideas or thoughts about ourselves or stories about ourselves, even then it's difficult to understand. It's difficult to get at it, to be in peace without adding extra confusion. So maybe I felt that this matter of understanding is difficult to convey even by direct question and direct answer. It is all the more difficult to convey by messenger. Anyone else have something about that?
I
And you
think
can,
that
yeah.
it's about how we can intellectually understand being present, and that's actually different than being present with your sense of awareness. Because I can explain all the process of what it means to be aware, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are aware of the current moment that's going on. You're just thinking about the process of being aware, which is actually being distracted from being aware of the present moment sometimes. And I think maybe that's what this is about then.
Hmm. That sounded nice. Yeah. We kind of we getting wrapped up in our wanting to figure it out. Our wanting to get the message keeps us from getting the message, right? Our wanting to be present, or our idea of being present, is actually keeping us from being present, being there. And Julian said amen in the voice text chat. And if you're watching through YouTube, you can also write something, and I'll read it on your behalf if you want to ask a question or share what you might have gotten that was wise from it, for those watching on YouTube. Captain Julian says, someone points at something and you only look at his finger. Keeping in mind that just as rich as the interesting stories and our interpretations and our feelings about them is also this space in between the story, in between the interpretation. This opening is very precious. So also really valuing that as a part of our practice. Okay, so we will move on to the next story. This one is appropriately called Reality. Zen Master Tenkai used to admonish his followers, "You should be genuine in all things. Nothing that is genuine in the world is not genuine in Buddhism, and nothing that is not genuine in Buddhism is genuine in the world." He would also say, "See with your eyes, hear with your ears. Nothing in the world is hidden. What would you have me say?" That's a short one, so I'll read it again. Zen Master Tenkai used to admonish his followers, quote, "You should be genuine in all things. Nothing that is genuine in the world is not genuine in Buddhism, and nothing that is not genuine in Buddhism is genuine in the world." He would also say, "See with your eyes, hear with your ears. Nothing in the world is hidden. What would you have me say?" Any thoughts? Yeah? Go ahead, Nicholas.
I feel like with the see with your eyes and hear with your ears portion, he's making a point about not making assumptions. Like, I guess, like, see what's actually in front of you. Don't assume, like, what's behind that object over there or what's around the corner. And, yeah, just don't make assumptions and actually perceive what's actually present.
It sounds good to me. Thank you, Nicholas, for sharing that.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. Um, in my own experience, like every time I've had like some big, what feels like a grand realization is just as simple as like just noticing something as it is. It's not like something new appears. It's just like a you let go of all of your presumptions of something, you see it as it is, and that's when everything starts to fit together and makes sense. Hopefully that made any sense.
Thank you. Scott, thank you.
I agree with them, and I would also interpret it as actions speak louder than words. Hear with your eyes.
May says, hear with your eyes. All right, I can get into that. I appreciate that. And Asha in the voice chat text channel on Discord says, I feel like this also applies to worrying about the unknown. And Captain Julian says, sounds like be present instead of thinking about what you experience. Just see, just hear, instead of forcing judgment, illusions, concepts on your experience of now. You don't worry about the unknown, you worry about what you think the unknown is like. Okay, Captain Julian, thank you. And Asha says, no worrying about things that are not present. Okay. Julian says, how do you experience something that is not present? I guess the absence of something that you had experienced before. Just breathing, just being aware. As we continue our deep listening, and as we move on to our next short Zen story, and this is a longer one. This is a bit of a longer one, and it's entitled A Healing Buddha. So strap in. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay. A Zen story, short Zen story entitled A Healing Buddha. Tomomura Yushoshi, friend of the Pines, was from Nagasaki, which was in those days the only port in Japan open to foreign trade. Yushoshi is said to have been born of a liaison between a Chinese merchant and a local prostitute. When he went into business as a physician and was questioned about his background, Yushoshi simply wrote that he was the son of a Nagasaki prostitute. People praised him for his honesty and strength of character. According to records written by his students, Yushoshi had no concern for reputation or profit, but he liked the good and despised the bad. Taking an interest in Buddhism and having a natural inclination for its teachings, his predilection was to heal people and save lives. For this purpose, he studied both Taoist medical arts and Buddhist psychological arts from Chinese practitioners, and then meditated day and night for 3 years until he reached understanding. Yushoshi provided medical treatment on demand with remarkable results. He made his debut in Kyoto before he was even 30 years old and was the honored guest of barons from all over the country. It is also said that he was lauded by the founders and elders of the Obaku sect, a Chinese Zen school newly transplanted to Japan. Yushoshi was also versed in divination, geomancy, and astrology. They say he taught these subjects to his students in accordance with their capacities. One of Yushoshi's peculiarities was that he would say just what he thought in discussions with other physicians, whether they were his friends or strangers. If he saw that they were wrong, he would explain why he thought so, addressing them directly without any hesitation. If he heard someone say something mistaken, he would openly argue. He himself said that he did this to help others. In any case, as a result, some doctors considered him mad, others considered him straightforward, some praised him, others slandered him. How about that one? Seems to me like a short biography of Yushoshi, but maybe something stood out for anyone here? Certainly, I noticed that whatever you do, you are successful, skillful, whatever it might be. Some people will be pleasant to you, and some people will be unpleasant to you. However you prepare yourself, and however you take care of yourself, sometimes you will deal with unpleasant things, and sometimes you will have pleasant things. But maybe regardless of what happens, to just do our best to be true to ourselves and to try and help others. With this full awareness that not everyone's going to like us, and our experiences aren't always going to be pleasant.
I think that other people's unpleasantness is interdependent, so it's not them who is unpleasant, it's the circumstances.
Okay.
And unpleasantness can often be a good teacher. If you make the same experiences again and again and it's as unpleasant, it's very likely that you're gonna change your approach after a while. Or some people do it after the first time.
Yeah, I noticed that when I first got started in meditation, when I was really a beginner and kind of dived into living at a temple and staying at a meditation center and doing these intensive retreats, I kind of unfolded or experienced extremely directly that the way that I was handling myself, the way that I was relating to myself moment to moment didn't work. And that I needed to try something else. I physically experienced or directly experienced that compassion is vital moment to moment. and this willingness to be with unsatisfactoriness instead of running away from it or trying to cover it up was deeply integral to my mental health and my robustness in being in the world. That just to be with and to be okay with unsatisfactoriness, and that my only response to that wasn't just to like try to get rid of it or to avoid it or to cover it up with some other activity, but I could step into that realization or that recognition that there is unsatisfactoriness, there is unpleasantness. That's an aspect of reality that I experience day to day. And in the midst of that, I can do my best to become more skillful, to study, and also to help others. I can practice, I can show up in the midst of difficulty and unsatisfactoriness to embolden and peacify myself. And I can help others as well. And that's not through getting rid of suffering, that's through embracing it and being willing to be with it. You know, I'm not defeated just because I feel tired in the morning or because I feel a distinct sense of guilt or shame or weakness, but I can really feel that. I can really be with it, and I can step into my day. I can step into my life, and it's okay. It works.
I have something to share from that. So thank you for sharing. I kind of came here today with the intention of like, I was carrying a lot of like shame with me, and I was like, I was gonna ask about how do I handle the shame, and really what I wanted to know is how do I get rid of it. But I think I see now that it's not about that. It's about the fact that I'm here with shame now, like I'm here practicing with everyone and with my shame. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you for your shame. There's a saying that one of the kind of original teachers who ran the first temple that I lived at, it's a temple in New Mexico, there's a saying that she would say to eat the blame, to eat the shame, to take the bitter medicine, and don't be shy about it. You know, it's okay to take a bitter medicine. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to go through difficulty. It's not permanent. It's impermanent. And eating the blame, eating the shame, and showing up helps us to learn how to deal with that in a more skillful way. And it also helps us to really recognize that acting in certain ways brings about unskillful or unhelpful results. And it's not through like covering that up or trying to close our eyes to that we deal with it in a better way, but it's through really taking responsibility for it, really showing up to it, and experiencing directly that it's not permanent. You know, we don't have to close our eyes until it's gone, because sure, that'll work too. You know, you wake up, oh, I don't feel that way so much anymore. But to really be with it, to feel it, and to notice and be aware that it's not permanent. It is starkly impermanent, whether that's a shame or a mistake or a relapse on an addiction. Some of the first steps are, you know, there's the saying that relapse is a part of recovery, and learning to be compassionate with yourself when you go through relapse or when you make a mistake. You know, you trip so many times that your knees are raw with, you know, with wounds. Every single time you need to learn to take care of those wounds, and then you can keep walking. You know, there's no point where the wound is so bad where you say, well, I give up. I'm going to leave that to itself. We make a mistake, we have a difficulty, and we take care of it. And through that process of relapse as a part of recovery, we're learning to be compassionate with ourselves and our mistake-filled life. So I have always felt that people who go through quite a lot of adversity, or people who go through a lot of make big mistakes, and they have a habit of making big mistakes, they also have this doorway to really becoming more robust healers, because they have to practice on themselves. They have to learn through their suffering to transform it and to take care of it. And then, wow, you're empowered and you're emboldened to take care of all kinds of people in all kinds of situations, because you really develop that relationship with yourself. And it all starts from the relationship that we have with ourself, right? And in the midst of all this, with our best of intentions, in any case, as a result, some will consider us mad. Others will consider us to be straightforward. Some will praise us, and others will slander us. And even all of that in the midst of our own internal kind of dialogue and structures and all that. All kinds of things coming up. But coming back to our sincerity and our compassionate vow, our compassionate aspiration, not a desire, but a compassionate aspiration to help others. Wow. This compassionate aspiration to help ourselves. Could you imagine how much meaning we can bring to our life when we really have that kind of desire? Sure, coffee is delicious, but if that's our main desire that we function with, it's not going to bring so much meaning to our lives. But if we can connect with, if we can feel this compassionate aspiration to help ourselves, to have more peace and more depth and more serenity in our lives, this compassionate aspiration to help those around us, wherever we happen to be. We find ourselves in all kinds of situations. Wow, how empowering that is. How much meaning that can bring to our life just like that. A lot of people suffering, a lot of people need help. A lot of aspects of ourselves that could use a lot of healing and attention as well. So there's a real accessibility to this meaning in our life when we think about it this way, this compassionate vow, compassionate aspiration. Wow. Well, look at this. We couldn't have made this happen through planning, but by cause and effect, it has happened. The next story here is called Shame and Conscience. This next Zen story is called Shame and Conscience. So I'm sure this will be interesting in the realm of cause and effect. There was a certain merchant who was deeply impressed by the lofty virtue of the Zen monk Hakuin. He used to present the monk with gifts of money and goods from time to time. As it happened, the daughter of the merchant had a love affair with a family servant, resulting in the birth of a child. When the irate merchant demanded an explanation, his daughter said she had been impregnated by the monk Hakuin. The merchant was furious. To think that I gave alms to an evil shave-pate like that for 10 years. Picking the baby up in his arms, the merchant took it right over to Hakuin. Laying it in the Zen master's lap, the merchant gave him a tongue lashing and left in a huff. Hakuin didn't argue. He began to take care of the baby as if it were his own. People who saw him also believed he had fathered the child. One winter day, when Hakuin was out begging for alms from house to house in the falling snow, carrying the infant with him as he went, the merchant's daughter saw them and was filled with remorse. In tears, she went to her father and confessed the truth. Mortified, the merchant was totally at a loss. He rushed over to throw himself to the ground at the feet of Zen Master Hakuin, begging his forgiveness. Hakuin simply smiled and said, "The child has another father." Question: the child has another father. I'm not quite sure how ancient Japanese Zen masters put a questionary inflection to their questions, but he asked the question. That was the final word. Hakuin simply smiled and said, "The child has another father." Sometimes we find ourselves with someone else's baby. We can either take care of it or what else?
The part about it that the monk lives through these years with other people thinking that he did in fact father the baby, makes me think that it's something like he's doing what he thinks is right because this child is unwanted and it needs a home, and it's at the expense of his reputation and what people think about him. But he knows he's, just being sincere and doing what is right, and knows not to let, how it might look affect his ability to do that. And then he plays kind of, I read it almost like he's playing kind of dumb or something at the end, like, oh, the child has another father, I didn't know. But really he did know.
Thank you, Stephen. Anyone else have some thoughts about this story? This is a really common story in the Zen kind of stories, and it's told in a few different ways. But yeah, this is a very well-known Zen story. Anyone else have a thought about it, or some kind of wisdom that you noticed in it or got out of it?
I feel it can be interpreted as you don't get to choose your burdens, but it's your responsibility to take ownership of them or to nurture them or whatever they require, deal with them.
We do have two people who shared in the YouTube live chat. Your Positive Mind Meditations says, being compassionate with others brings compassion towards ourselves. Understanding others' suffering, it is understanding yours and what they are going through. Scarlet Mars says, if you reject someone else's suffering, it can be as destructive as harming the most precious and innocent of lives. The same goes for rejecting your own suffering. That one was beautiful. I think what you said there was really beautiful, and it's both true in this, from my perspective, it's true in this kind of like, I don't know, emotional or psychological way, but it's also true literally at that time, or possibly true literally at that time. If Hakuin would have rejected this baby, it could have been so destructive to harm that most precious and innocent of life. Who was going to take care of that child? Hakuin didn't even ask that. It's just to take care of what is there. And Daniel says, I take it as a story about living up and owning up to your mistake. I think that's also good. Good way to see it. Okay, so let's move into our final story before the fun part. Before we get to the exciting bit of our event together. So we can take a deep breath, restart, resettle, refresh, and we'll practice deep listening as we listen to this final story, this final Zen story, entitled Zen in Action. Zen master Man An wrote to a lay student of Zen. A lay student is just like a follower of Zen, but they're not a monk or not a priest. They don't live at the temple. So Zen master Man An wrote to a lay student of Zen, quote, "If you want to quickly attain mastery of all truths and be independent in all events, there is nothing better than concentration in activity. That is why it is said that students of mysticism working on the way should sit in the midst of the material world." Quote, the third patriarch, or the third original master of Zen, said, "If you want to head for the way of unity, do not be averse to the objects of the six senses. This does not mean that you should indulge in the objects of the six senses. It means that you should keep right mindfulness continuously, neither grasping nor rejecting the objects of the six senses in the course of everyday life. Like a duck going into the water without its feathers getting wet. If, in contrast, you despise the objects of the six senses and try to avoid them, you fall into escapist tendencies and never fulfill the way of enlightenment. If you clearly see the essence, then the objects of the six senses are themselves meditation. Sensual desires are themselves the way of unity, and all things are manifestations of reality. Entering into the great Zen stability, undivided by movement and stillness, body and mind are both freed and eased." So a final word on this. If you clearly see the essence, then the objects of the six senses are themselves meditation. If you clearly get the point, if you clearly make heads and toes of what it is that we're doing here, each and every sensation, each and every experience, hearing something, smelling something, thinking something, feeling something, each and every experience, all phenomena are at the essence of meditation. The doorway to presence, the doorway to peace, the doorway to being aware. Any questions about this before we take meditation? So let's go ahead and take a moment to just maybe stretch a bit and readjust your posture. If we were all having a meal together, this would be dessert, and very specially prepared dessert. So take a moment to stretch and make sure that you're comfortable. And as we get comfortable, we can bring up just a bit of a gratefulness and appreciation that we have a healthy body and a healthy mind, somewhat, relatively. A bit of appreciation of our community that is gathered right now, a bit of unity that we feel. And setting that intention to take advantage of this moment, of this time, to connect with our heart, to connect with our body and mind, to connect with our totally ordinary, totally present human life here in this moment. So to practice meditation, it's not complicated. It's not confusing. Placing our focus and our attention onto the breath. Feeling the breath coming in and going out. Our practice of meditation here is to very simply breathe and be aware. If at any time we get distracted or we feel confused, go back to the method of connecting with the breath. Just breathing and being aware. Whatever thoughts or distractions or feelings come up, making them doorways of noticing, not judging, not getting involved in anything, but just a doorway to notice, oh, it's that again. Returning back to the breath. And as our breath settles, as our mind calms, just breathing and being aware. That's it. Breathing and being aware. If we feel particularly tense or sleepy or confused, it's just a matter of coming back to breathing and being aware. Breathing and being aware, coming back to this natural state of presence. This natural state of clarity, of awareness. Not so much a balancing act as it is this state of returning to our natural awareness. Meditation in this way is not a challenge, but this precious moment, this precious present that we are connecting with. repeating after me as we bring this awareness and this presence to affirmation, to seeding our mind. Saying to ourselves these words of metta, these words of loving kindness. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. May I be free from confusion. May I be unconfused and aware. May I be in a state of peace. May those that I love be in a state of peace. May the people that I barely know be in a state of peace. May the people that I dislike be in a state of peace. May those who are afraid be free from fear. May those who are suffering be free from suffering. May all beings be happy and at peace. May all aspects of myself be happy and at peace. May my practice of mindfulness be a place of peace for others. May my practice of mindfulness be a place of peace for others. If you like, at this moment, you can join your palms together as a representation of sincerity and consideration. And repeating after me, may all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be at peace. May it be so. May it be so. May it really be so. So this final part is kind of a harmonizing exercise. So we have this word in Pali called a sadhu. It's a very well-known, well-used word, and it kind of means may it be so. and it also means well done. So kind of a recognition of our work that we're doing together. So you can join me in chanting this sadhu and kind of harmonize, all of us harmonizing together in this way. We'll just chant it 3 times, and you can join in with me if you like. Sadhu. And we can bow to each other, to our practice. And if you like, you can massage your face. You can bring your hands together and starting to move your body and starting to stretch, and you can massage your face and your head. You can massage your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw muscles, neck, the shoulders, after a meditation on your own, you can do a full massage in that way. All right, so that is that's the end of our session together. A solid 1 hour practicing together. Keep in mind that the quality of this practice, the practice itself, is something we don't just need to leave it here, but we can bring it into our life, our moment-to-moment life. Whatever activities we're involved with, we can kind of breathe and be aware. Even sometimes when we're doing an event, taking a shower, showing up at work, in an argument, anything, we can just take a moment to take a deep breath and tune into that, just breathing and being aware. Nothing confusing, nothing special, but just settling and being in the moment. So thank you everyone for joining, especially everyone here on the Discord. You know, we're really starting to get to know each other more and more as we show up again and again. And anyone have any final words, any expressions that they want to share before we wrap up, before we close shop?
Do you have time for a quick question?
Yeah.
I'm just like a little bit of clarification on one of the affirmations. It was, may my practice of mindfulness be a place of peace for others. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so Thich Nhat Hanh says that one of the greatest gifts that we can give to our loved ones, to the people that we care about, is our presence or our mindfulness. And so if you just take that in kind of a literal way, you just kind of show up somewhere and you're physically there, but you're not present with them. You're not really listening to them. And so our mindfulness, being a place of peace for others, is allowing other people to receive other people and to allow other people to be under the umbrella of our mindfulness, of our real, sincere, non-judgmental awareness. Is the meaning of that. And that's a wonderful offering that we can give to people, to just be with them in that way.
Thank you.
Dia has a question in the voice text here on Discord. Dia says, thanks so much, Bante. May I have a question, please? Of course. Why, when I practice meditating, there are times I feel I lose balance, like falling off a bike. That's exactly what's happening. You're falling off of your meditation bike. And it's great that you're aware of that. You know, some of us, maybe some of us here in this who've been participating in this group meditation, we just fall asleep. Or some of us only have a few moments where we come back to that mindfulness, and the rest of the time is just, really getting lost in thought. So if you're aware that you kind of fall off of the bike, you fall off of the method, you come back onto it. And that is the practice. That is much more so the practice than any kind of trance that you get into or any kind of special state. It's that returning to, it's that coming back. And when you do that, when you experience that, you're actually tuning into one of the greatest wisdom that we have an idea about in Buddhism or in Buddhist meditation or meditation, which is impermanence. So that thought, that falling off the bike, that whatever it is you're involved with is not permanent. It just, you fall off and then you can come back to your method. So it's something that is really valuable to be experiencing and going through Dia. And just like with riding a bike, we get back on and eventually we find that, wow, I kind of learned how to ride this bike. And even though I had some guidance, right? Even though I was inspired by that there were other bike riders with me, I learned how to ride this bike on my own. And now it's mine. And I don't need to rely on this idea or that idea or even a particular community or a particular place. You can just ride your bike. And so it's great that you're really tuning into this. And, that kind of question is just right on the money, right at the heart of practice. That, we fall off. We fall off balance and then we come back to center. We come back to our method, breathing and being aware.
Well, I had an interesting meditation experience. I'm extremely tired, and I spent most of it falling asleep and waking up and being like, I'm breathing and I'm aware. And then I'd fall back asleep. And that happened continuously. But look at this. I managed to pull through and be aware. A continuous process of falling asleep and waking back up and being aware, right?
You're here and you're awake. Who would have thought? All those times falling asleep, you'd think, well, you'd be asleep forever. But look, we're here, we're awake. It's somewhat calm, somewhat stable. So, we go to sleep and we wake back up. That's the process. We fall off the method and we get back on it. And I experienced that also. Kit, it's totally normal that's a part of our meditation experiences, and it's valuable to be with that, to be with sleepiness and not to give up, but to stay with it, is awesome. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's wrap up for today. We can plan to, I think, tomorrow to meet together about the same time, but you just keep an eye out for the announcement here on Discord, and I'll try to give as much notice as possible. And maybe we practice again tomorrow. All right? Thank you for joining, everyone. I really appreciate all of your practices, and try to stay with it. Okay? You really can make progress. Don't think that because you're not a monk or because you don't have so much time to devote to this that you can't make a lot of progress, because you really can. And just the fact that you're here in this space for this amount of time and focusing and being present, wow, it's really a big sign. So keep at it, and I'll keep showing up. We can keep practicing together. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bente.
Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, so that is our wrap up on Discord, and we will now also wrap up here on YouTube. So take care, everyone. Thank you for joining. Hope this brought some peace to your day, to your life, and see you again soon.